Welcome into today's episode of Pushing the Pile. Mike Renner, joined as always by Kyle Long. And today we're going to be going through and drafting the best units from each positional group in the NFL to make the best team possible, going head to head here. So it's quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight end, O-line, D-line, linebackers, DBs, and we even threw in special teams, Kyle. We even threw in special teamers. So you
Why
know how
not?
this, you know what we're doing here?
I don't know why we're using special teams. I'm never going to punt. I'm never going to kick. They can just touch back if they want every time.
They may not be drafted very early on, but we'll see. I saw someone hit a 70-yarder here in preseason. That might come in handy on an NFL field here shortly. So we flipped a coin. Kyle, you got the very first pick. The board is yours. No one's been taken. Kick us off.
I got the first pick. Mike, thank you very much for having me on here to do this draft. I've never done one of these. I'm not in fantasy leagues, but I do understand the game of football. I want to start it out with a smart pick. I feel like a pick you can't get in trouble with. I'd say the most versatile, dangerous, dynamic quarterback in the National Football League goes by the name of Lamar Jackson. It's going to be the Ravens quarterback unit. I just love Lamar Jackson. He's so tough, such a leader. He puts your team in a position to win every week. Why would you not pick Lamar Jackson here with the first pick?
Yeah, I there's a lot of different strategies for something like this, and I don't think you can go wrong attacking what I would say is the most valuable position group in the NFL, and that's obviously the quarterback position. And Lamar, I mean, Josh Allen was the MVP last year. He won the award. It is impossible to say that Josh Allen was for sure playing the quarterback position better than Lamar was. Maybe he had less help around him. Maybe, you can make any argument you want to say that he won the award, but Lamar is playing at a level right now that is as good as it gets in the NFL. And from just, if we're really stacking the most talent around a quarterback, which is what we're doing in this obviously scenario, he gives you the most options, right? He has the most dynamic rushing ability. He has an arm to stretch the football field. There really is nothing that Lamar Jackson seemingly cannot do at the quarterback position. So, yeah, a good first overall pick. So we're
Now
going to
it's
snake
time
draft.
for you to figure out how to stop him or try to outmatch him, Mike. What's your next move?
That's exactly what I'm doing. So it's a snake draft. So I get two, and then we're going to kick it back to you for one. And I'm going to go and immediately try to stop Lamar Jackson here. I want the Broncos defensive backfield. To me, when I look across the entire landscape of the NFL right now, I think this is the most dominant unit in the NFL, at least on paper. I mean, shoot, it was last year. So my argument here is they were number one in EPA per dropback against last year, the best pass defense in the NFL. They had the defensive player of the year in Patrick Surtain, the best cornerback in the NFL, a guy who can go mano a mano. I mean, you got clips of Jamar Chase and Ocho Cinco debating how you even get off this guy in press coverage. How do we even beat this guy? That's how you know you're the best, is when you're getting social clips in the offseason of the best receivers in the NFL, even debating how they're supposed to beat you. But it's him, it's Riley Moss on the other side. And then they added first rounder Jahdae Barron at the cornerback position, and then Brandon Jones, and added Talanoa Hufanga at safety. So the best secondary in the NFL from a year ago added two new starters, a first rounder, and a highly paid safety to the mix. Now, Hufanga may be a bit more of a box safety, not going to factor in as much to this coverage unit, but obviously will be a factor in the running game. But this trio of corners, Riley Moss, Jahdae Barron, Patrick Surtain, you ain't throwing on a much. You ain't going to be getting the ball moving through the air too much against this unit.
All right. So that's a great defensive secondary pick. But as you said just a second ago, this is a snake draft. And for those of you at home or, listening, I hate snake drafts because I'm used to the drafts being like this. I'm used to it being like
The
this,
NFL
Mike.
drafts.
You make your pick and you walk away and you get a snack. And then you come back in about 15 minutes when the league's already made their picks, and then you're up next. I come back to my computer, I come back to my cell phone, and people are screaming at me in the chat because they said it's still your pick, you big dumb animal. Make two picks. It's a snake draft. So now it's your turn to make two picks. And if I get off the rails in an order from an order standpoint, just let me know.
You would have hated it. We had a dynasty draft this year where they started snaking in the third round, I believe. So it didn't start
What are we
snaking in the
doing?
second round. They started snaking in the third round. It's, hey, all in the name of fairness here. And because of that, I'm going to go with the wide receiver position. My favorite
Yeah.
receiving core in the NFL, Cincinnati Bengals, for two reasons. One, I love any receiving cores. I think receiving core is two receivers deep. I don't want to say at most, but like two receivers deep gives you a receiving core. Jamar Chase is the best receiver in the NFL. He won the Triple Crown last year. I actually looked this up before the show, and I couldn't believe this. He won the Triple Crown even if you include playoff stats. So even if you give everyone the however many games they played in the playoffs, they still did not match the amount of catches, yards, and touchdowns that Jamar Chase had in the regular season. So your Triple Crown winner from a year ago, you have the best number one in the NFL. You also have a number two that, while I wouldn't say he's the best number two in the NFL, I think that distinction right now belongs to George Pickens. He's obviously a bit more reliable than George Pickens, and he's right there in the mix with guys like Devontae Adams, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle for the second best number two in the NFL, and gives you this red zone threat that's elite. And then I'll just say this as cherry on top, don't sleep on Jermaine Burton. So receiving core is too deep. If they double Jamar, you can go to T, but then Jermaine Burton is so talented for a number three. Now, when he's not at the casino down the street here in Cincinnati at 3 a.m. before the games, he's even better. But if you can get this guy with his head on straight, he is so talented for a number three wide receiver. I expect him at some point to figure it out and become an impact player for this Bengals team.
I almost forgot that there was a guy on the Bengals that was needed for this offense that was like into playing Buffalo Run or whatever the hell. It's like, that's what he's doing in his off time.
Dude, he was playing slots. They had him at the slot.
I have to push back. I have to push back here because I'm a T. Higgins fan. And I would argue that he is the number one, number two
in the
National Football League. And George Pickens, albeit one of the most talented receivers regardless of team in the National Football League, he's not as reliable as T. Higgins, even though T. Higgins dealt with some injury stuff last year. He's not a guy that's explosive and people walking on eggshells around. I really feel like the only issues that you've seen out of this receiving crew in Cincinnati is that they just want to get paid, and you can't really hold that against them. All right, so
I'll say this about Higgins. The one thing that I think people almost forget about, sleep on, he is enormous. This guy's wingspan is huge, like truly one of the longest receivers in the NFL. Like, I think we kind of bucket all big wide receivers like, oh, he's a bigger wide receiver. No, T. Higgins is enormous.
What was that show? John Brinkus, Sports Science. T. Higgins is a prime candidate in today's game to be like in a garage, seeing how much square footage he can cover in one bound. Okay,
he's a two-car garage sort of wingspan guy.
A lot of orange in your skill department. Wearing a lot of orange there between the Broncos and the Bengals. Something to keep an eye on. Okay, just a lot of orange there.
Don't get lost.
For me. Surprised as you may be, I'm going to go with the Eagles offensive line for my next pick. We talked about how offensive lines are supposed to be constructed, and obviously I feel like the center position is of the utmost of importance. If you've got any semblance of a passing game, you need to be able to protect the dish inside out. The Eagles have been able to do that at an excellent rate over the last decade, obviously with Kelsey getting to Juergens. And then I said, you're spoiled if you got two tackles. And I take a look at the left tackle with Jordan Mailata, who is, in offensive line rooms, we would refer to a guy like Jordan Mailata as an avatar. He just comes from another planet. He can do things that we can't do. Don't even try to emulate him. And then Lane Johnson has been the gold jacket stalwart on the right side. He's a Super Bowl champion. He can lock anybody down. Obviously, they've got the hole there at the right guard position. But as you and I know, Coach Stoutland is going to develop whatever oxen walks through the door. He's going to be able to get him on the three technique and the second level. I love this Eagles offensive line. Everybody in the stadium knows they're running the football and they get it done. Nobody does it like the Eagles. Nobody quite does it like the Eagles. And we see all these teams emulating them now. The Seahawks got the tush push the other night on national television, and all these teams try to do it. The Eagles do it the best. The Eagles do it the most. They get an extra down and couple their skill with Lamar Jackson. Come on, baby. I'll see you in the end zone. It's going to be a party, Mike.
Yeah, I think for the Eagles O-line, someone's going to have they're number one by default for, until someone comes and shows us something. When you have a 2,000-yard rusher behind you, when you do what they've done, making to the last three Super Bowls, I'm gonna say one Mekhi Becton isn't gonna drop them from that top spot in terms of offensive lines around the NFL. All right, there's our first few picks. You got the Ravens QB in Lamar Jackson. You got the Eagles offensive line. I got the Broncos DBs. I got the Bengals receivers. We're going to keep the draft going. Coming up right after this. Welcome back into Pushing the Pile. Mike Renner, Kyle Long. We are going through drafting the best units in the NFL to make our own respective teams through 2 picks apiece. Kyle has the Ravens quarterback, Eagles offensive line. I have the Broncos DBs, Bengals wide receivers. We've snaked it, so it's back to you, Kyle.
This is interesting to see the technique, the tactics here. It's little war games that we're playing here. You're going with the flanks. I'm just going right up the gut. I'm just going spearhead and staying with the theme of just taking you out back and taking your lunch money, Mike Renner. I'm going to go with the Giants defensive line. I'm going to go with that defensive line room. Plug the middle, dominate the edges, spoiled with rushers. Look, we can live in third down any distance. We've got a guy who can rush the passer on the inside with Dexter Lawrence. Obviously, they drafted Abdul Carter, and albeit not everybody or nobody is immune to being chipped on the edge. We saw Abdul Carter get chipped, and people are like, "Oh, he bleeds like in Predator." If he bleeds, we can kill him. Well, I'll tell you what, he's hard to kill. All right. And that entire room is hard to kill. They're going to have fresh legs the entirety of the season. And I'll tell you what, with the running game that my team is going to have with Lamar Jackson and obviously some picks later on in the show, the offensive line for the Eagles, this group is going to be fresh. They're going to be rested. They're going to be telling jokes. And when it's their time to come on the field, it's going to be like the Michael Strahan Giants group with the Jim Jones song playing. Ballin'.
I love that. I feel like I've convinced you to this take, or maybe I haven't convinced you. Maybe just watching Abdul Carter through 2 weeks of the preseason has convinced you, because I all spring was just like, I cannot believe the way this guy moves. I've seen, the Will Andersons of the world. I've seen the Jared Verses of the world. This guy's better. This guy is a different cat. He's like Micah Parson was coming out of Penn State, in that you just don't see guys that big who move. He moves like a cornerback. I mean, truly does have unique level of burst, twitch, agility. It beat Deion Dawkins, Pro Bowl left tackle, twice his very first game in the preseason. Baptized Armand Membu last week. I mean, this guy is going to be a problem. And if you put a problem next to Dexter
There are
Lawrence,
wanted posters in every offensive line room, and Abdul Carter's on him. He hasn't even played a regular season game yet. That's how talented he is.
Yeah, those chips, he better get used to those, because I think he's going to be seeing a lot more of them in the coming weeks. And speaking of chips, I'm going to go with the guys who chip some of those defensive linemen. I'm going to go with the Raiders tight end room, because to me, right now, Brock Bowers compared to the rest of the tight ends in the NFL might be like the biggest gap. Brock Bowers is a true like number one receiver playing tight end. I'm not sure there's another guy. It's like Kelsey in his prime, Kittle in his prime. Like those guys have taken steps back now in their late and mid 30s. But Brock Bowers is there, and you put a cornerback on this guy, a safety on this guy, a linebacker on this guy. It does not matter. He's getting open. Like I said, this is like having. I have T. Higgins. I have Jamar Chase. I just added a third wide receiver one here to the mix. And I added a guy in Michael Mayer who had, off-field issues his second year. It's been well publicized at this point what was going on there. But this was the 35th overall pick back in 2023 for a reason. He looked good as a rookie. Obviously had that kind of year off. If he's back, focused, locked in this year, I now have, my 4 wide of these 4. It gives me the flexibility to run at a high level, because I have 2 tight ends on the football field, but then also I can attack down the field if I want to. So I'm happy with how I built my receiving core. This was my dream scenario, and I got it here with the Raiders and Bengals.
I love this pick for you. I really do. And I'll say this is really not a football take. This is just being a fan of an athlete take. When I think about a guy like MJ, who had the shaved head for the entirety of my fandom and my childhood, he was ageless. You know what I'm saying? You could look at MJ, and the only real way you could tell what year it was is which shoe was he wearing? Which one of his shoes was he wearing? Or is he wearing 45? You know which year that is, or is it a Wizards jersey? That's it. Brock Bowers, if he shaved his head and just was, clean cut. He would be one of these ageless guys that could play for, especially if he plays for the Raiders his entire career. Every picture will look the same. The stadium will be the same for the Vegas Raiders forever in Brock Bowers' career. This is one of those guys that I feel like isn't going to have a letdown until like year 13, year 14, barely a letdown. He could look the same forever. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, just he had to do it, right? Imagine MJ if he had like a horseshoe fade going on his entire career. He's not MJ. It's a different
Kind of
player
sweet.
entirely.
Like this.
So him shaving it, I think, takes Brock Bowers to another level that him with the horseshoe fade was just not getting to. It's simple math. All right, my next pick,
Got to tap into the aerodynamics.
Philadelphia Eagles, running back position. Eagles are going to be a popular pick for a few different positions, but obviously Saquon Barkley going over 2,000 yards in 16 games, didn't even need the extra game. Eighth most yards in a single season all time. Yeah, give me Saquon Barkley. I don't have an offensive line yet, but I'm not too worried. I think I'll get a pretty darn good one in front of him. Give me the most dynamic runner. Obviously, the Eagles' backfield outside of Saquon, nothing to write home about. Will Shipley, A.J. Dillon, they're fine. Saquon's not coming off the field. Give me the Eagles running back.
Unbelievable, the legs on this guy, Saquon Barkley. I'm just watching the B-roll here. They're trying to figure out how to attach enough friggin' rubber bands to get it around this guy's quads. Look, it's a great pick. I mean, it's a great pick. And you know what I feel like is an even better pick? My next pick. Okay, my next pick is better because it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receivers. All right. Now we're getting skillful on my team. We don't have a team name, but we're getting more skillful than we were brawny just a second ago. Emeka Ibuka, you listen to Mike Evans talk about this guy, and it's like, what planet did we find this receiver on? And why is he so NFL ready? I was talking to my dad yesterday, and we were just kind of figuring out what we think is going to happen this year. We're kind of throwing a bunch of you-know-what at the wall and seeing what sticks. And I kind of was like, Emeka Ibuka feels like, from all the things I've heard coming out of camp in Tampa Bay, he feels like the guy that Marvin Harrison Jr. was supposed to be the day that he arrived in Arizona. Just ready to roll. You ain't got to tell him you know what. He's one of those rookies that just goes. He's earned the respect of Mike Evans, who is a first ballot Hall of Famer. Chris Godwin is going to be healthy. I mean, look, any one of these guys can take over a football game at any given time, and they all do different things. I love the Bucs receiver room. I think they're going to be one of the best offenses in the National Football League as a byproduct of investing so much into this room, and they've hit it. They've hit the nail on the head as it pertains to the guy they're bringing in the room, the talent they're bringing in the room, and those are the guys I want in my room.
Yeah, I think we went distinctly different receiving cores. Obviously, with the top end talent, yours is just like the Bucs receiving room is just like, hey, wide receiver 4
Throw
is
it
a wide
anywhere.
receiver 2 for other people. Like they have so much talent. And to go to Ibuka again, I think in today's NFL, smart, savvy receivers like Ibuka are getting more and more valuable. You got to exploit holes in zones. You got to be on the same page as your quarterback. If you watch him at Ohio State, he was so good at that. And that's a skill that's going to, ingratiate yourself to Baker Mayfield very quickly. So not surprising that he's done just that. All right, we're going to take a break. The snake draft rolls on. Kyle, your pick up next. Right after this. We're rolling through drafting the best units in the NFL, going head to head. To recap our team so far, Kyle, you have the Ravens quarterback. Obviously, that's Lamar Jackson. Eagles offensive line, Giants defensive line, and Bucs wide receivers. I have the Broncos DBs, the Bengals receivers, the Raiders tight ends, and the Eagles running back room. Snake draft. So you're up again. Who you got?
Okay, I had to get a unit from my favorite football team in here. And I thought about going the Bears wide receivers, but I think 12 months to the day from now, I will be doing the Bears as one of my top 2 picks in the receiver room. This draft, I'm going to go with the Bears tight ends. Okay, I know that they're going to be used a lot. Ben Johnson showed me in the first preseason game, the second preseason game, that the tight ends are going to be a focal point in the offense and as a way to be like a catalyst for those receivers. They want to get the receivers the ball in space and let them run with it. These guys, Colston Loveland and Cole Kmet, can split cover 2 They can go underneath. Cole Kmet can line up anywhere, be the inline blocking tight end. Colston Loveland literally can line up anywhere, receiver, tight end, put him in the backfield. Look, you want options. They got options in Chicago in the tight end room. And I'm excited about it. And I think that our football team is going to be excited about it. Lamar Jackson and Cole Kmet. That connection is going to be special. Lamar Jackson running step for step with Colston Loveland on fake 39 naked right to the sideline. I'll tell you what, Loveland's going to bring that ball in.
Yeah, I'll say this. They're like a year away. I probably wouldn't draft them here right now. I see why you did. Next year at this time, I'd be like, heck yeah. But Colson Loveland is a rookie. And rookie tight ends, it's difficult to hit the ground running. But this is from like a talent perspective, from where they're at, they will be one of the best. I mean, they could even overtake the Raiders, who I drafted here in the coming years. That's how good I saw Colson Loveland, man. I think he's going to be special. And shoot, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe hits the ground running as a rookie. Who knows? But yeah, it's a very, very talented tight end room here. And I'm going to go.
Did you happen to hear Colston Loveland sing at Bears camp?
Oh, I saw the video. I didn't listen to the video. Was it?
I'll tell you what, shades of early NFL Travis Kelce, if you know what I'm saying. The guy's a little smooth, okay? He's got a little, there's a little something there with Colston Loveland. I'm looking forward to watching him play football. He's going to be a fan favorite. I just think he's smooth. He's got the sauce, as the kids would say. Okay?
Those Idaho boys, built different. All right, yes. Eagles, linebackers. That's where I'm going next. Now, obviously, Nakobe Dean hurt. For this exercise, I'm including him. Nakobe Dean's back healthy. He's going to be back healthy at some point this season from that torn patellar. Let's just say he's back healthy for this. But then also, you add to the mix Jahad Campbell, the first-round linebacker, who I could not believe fell to the last pick of the first round. I thought that was highway robbery. And yeah, the linebacker position, undervalued throughout the NFL. They don't get paid as much as other positions. Yeah. But Jahad Campbell here, if you just consider him like an edge rusher, I think this guy could be a starting edge rusher in the NFL. That's how physically talented he is. He started his career at Alabama as an edge rusher. They moved him off the ball. Sounds a lot like a guy who's playing next to him, who was an all-pro last year, and Zach Bond, who led the NFL in stops. So two of those guys who have that big body, perfect fit for Vic Fangio's scheme. Give me the Eagles linebacker room. I think it's going to be still the best one in the NFL this season.
I just love that pick. I mean, look, the linebacker is such an important position. It's such a big piece in what your identity is as a defense. Are you a unit that tackles well, a unit that can blitz well? Are you a unit that can absolutely stuff any run at the line of scrimmage? They can do it all. And, there's a lot of these units around the NFL that have that one guy in the room. I think about Baltimore with Roquan Smith and everything that they can do with him. I think about that team out in San Francisco, the 49ers, who is actually going to be probably on my board here soon. But, it's important to have guys who can do it all. Okay. And the Eagles have that good blend of it. Bond was a hand down rush defensive lineman in New Orleans. Okay, Vic Fangio, he was dropped on Vic Fangio's doorstep, and Vic Fangio, first thing he did is like, no, that's not the position you're going to play, and we're going to coach you up to use your past as a strength. I love the Eagles. Howie Roseman continues to reload that room and just load the entirety of that roster with talent.
All right, my next pick. I'm going to go Bills quarterback. I'm going to go Josh Allen. And you got to throw in Mitch Trubisky there, but mainly Josh Allen, the MVP,
it's a good
reigning
MVP,
pick because I have some vertical threats on this roster. I have Jamar Chase. I have Brock Bowers. We are going to go with, for my money, the strongest arm quarterback in the NFL, the guy who can make plays outside of structure down the football field better than anyone else in the NFL, at least last season. And a guy who seemingly has only continued to get better. Every single year of his career, it feels like he takes a little bit more of a next step. Now, it doesn't show come playoff time, and we'll have to see what happens then. But give me Josh Allen to helm this star-studded crew I'm building offensively.
Okay, so it's my pick now here.
Your pick.
All right, so I am going to be going with we were just talking about linebackers. I'm going to be going with a guy. I'm just going to say Fred Warner. All right, you put Fred Warner out there behind this defensive front of the New York Giants with the group that I'm going to have covering the back end. You're going to have chaos. The thing that makes Fred so much different, and it's like when I think about Luke Kuechly and what made him hard to play against. Yes, these guys are better athletes than you, but they also know what's going to happen before it even happens, and they probably know what you're intending to do better than you do. Fred Warner is special, and I know there's a lot of other names up there for the 49ers. But here's what I'm thinking. We're going to go five down with the Giants defensive front. We're going to go Fred Warner in the middle, and then we're just going to freaking shell this thing off. And we're going to say, block us. Okay. A lot of one-on-ones. It's going to be like the 85 Bears out there. They're not going to know what hit them. There's going to be a free runner every play. Could be Fred, could be Abdul. I don't know. Keep your head on a swivel.
I'm interested in that five down because Abdul Carter, if you know his story from Penn State, his first 2 years, he was an off-ball linebacker. So he could be that guy that's your floater, your Andrew Van Ginkle of sorts, where it's
Call
like,
that
is
a
he coming? Is he
spinner.
not?
Spinner.
Spinner. There you
Okay.
go.
Leonard Floyd did a lot of that when he was a rookie. Obviously I know how to stop it, but I don't know if they do. So, that's might be what we do.
That's, hey, good luck to whatever offensive line I ultimately pick to block those guys. All right. That's it. We're going to take a quick break. After that, I believe you're back up on the clock coming up right after this. All right, Kyle, we're back drafting the best units around the NFL, and you're back up on the clock. Who you got?
Okay, I figured I got to slow down this passing game, or at least get some guys who can get in the way.
Yeah, you better.
I love the way this unit I'm about to introduce you to. They're really well coached. They play physically, and I really feel like it's a unit that receivers don't want to play around the National Football League. Now, obviously, I'm talking about the Houston Texans secondary here. Obviously, when I'm talking about the Texans, you have to deal with the teeth of those edge rushers. Well, we've got the similar type of edge rush going on here with the New York Giants defensive front. They got to be able to take advantage of some of the errant throws, and they can do that here. Derek Stingley Jr., Kamar Lassiter at the corner position. Then obviously, CJ Gardner-Johnson is one of these guys that's just been around. He makes plays, and when he's healthy, he's one of the better guys in the National Football League. So I anticipate this unit being pretty physical. We're going to give you some trouble. Yeah, I know that Jamar Chase is going to catch and run with it for about 200 yards, regardless of who the hell you put out there. But this group's going to beat and bang on him a little bit. He's going to at least feel it, tell some stories on the bus, maybe.
Yeah, there are three secondaries right now that, for my money, are head and shoulders above the rest of the NFL. One of them's who I picked, the Denver Broncos. The other one's the Houston Texans. And I'd also throw the Baltimore Ravens in there and what they have this season. But the Texans, this is a championship caliber unit. I think a lot of people are down on the Texans, but I think what we all kind of expected, everyone's thought going into last year, they're making the leap from fun story with CJ Stroud as a rookie to championship contender. I think that leap actually happens this year with what the changes they did at offensive coordinator and with this secondary that was so good a year ago. Hey, it's actually better now. Our rookies, we had two rookies starting last year. They're in year two now. We had a weak link at safety position, and it's actually a strength now in CJ Gardner-Johnson. So I think that hasn't gotten talked enough about, that this Texans D is horrifying to go up against, unless, well, you have Jamar Chase, Brock Bowers, T. Higgins, Michael Mayer. I'm not that horrified at that point. All right, my pick.
This is going to be a hell of a game.
It will be. Since I got Josh Allen, I'm going to go with the Bills offensive line. I want that comfort level.
I like the pick.
I don't want Josh having to get used to a new gooch to put the hand under. I don't want him to get used to new tackles to have to understand when Josh is going to break the pocket. They're so good at that in Buffalo. Spencer Brown on the right side, Deion Dawkins on the left side. I think that's a top 3 tackle duo in the NFL. And the way they kind of know how to wall off, not hold, not get popped for flags when Josh is going to break the pocket. I like that continuity, and it's a unit that the sum is greater than the individual parts. The interior especially may not have household names, but these guys get the job done consistently. It's a fantastic unit. Maybe it's a little thin. Maybe after Alec Anderson, there's not a ton of depth along this offensive line, but we're going to stay healthy. They were super healthy last year. We're going to do it again this year. And that's why I like the Bills offensive line here.
I love that offensive line, Mike. You know I do. And Aaron Cromer, he probably hasn't got a shout out in a couple months, but here goes your weekly shout out now that football has started to Aaron Cromer. Nobody does it better, in my opinion, getting his guys ready to roll. You can just tell when you watch a great offensive line if they're doing all the similar techniques, if these guys are all using the same kind of techniques. You watch the Bills, it all looks the same, run and pass.
Yep.
Love this group, love this pick.
And I'm going to stick with the continuity aspect. Since I got the Eagles linebackers, I want them to get the same looks. I don't want them to have to adjust to a different offensive line, a different play style in front of them. I'm going Eagles defensive line as well. Now, they lost some big pieces. Milton Williams, Josh Sweat. You saw the contracts they got, all very deserving. Those are going to be difficult to replace. But Howie has replaced them, kind of. I think Moro Jomo is a guy that a lot more people are going to become familiar with his play this season, stepping up into that Milton Williams role. I think the additions of Azeez Ojulari and Josh Uche have flown way under the radar. Those guys can both rush the passer. Yeah, they're pass rush specialists. I just saw Azeez Ojulari kicking DeJuan Jones' butt in the preseason game. And, maybe that says a lot about DeJuan Jones, the Browns offensive tackle. He's a starting left tackle in the NFL, and he was just getting put in a turnstile by Azeez Ojulari, who isn't even a starter. And then you have J.Alex Hunt, who the third round rookie from a year ago made plays down the stretch, coming out of Houston Baptist. This guy is going to be a big step forward in year two, in his second year in the NFL. So I think this Eagles defensive line, yeah, maybe a little bit step back, but it's a step back from the best defensive line in the NFL. I think it's still right there in that mix.
I need to see more consistency out of this defensive line. I think we're going to find it. I think Jalen Carter got a taste of what it's like when he just pins his ears back consistently for 4 quarters, and the impact that him and his defensive line roommates can have on a football game. And then you take a look at Jordan Davis, who we've been kind of waiting for him to blossom. The physicality, consistency needs to be there all the time. Well, he lost about 25, 28 pounds this offseason. He's going to be ready to roll. I'll tell you how important it is to lose that weight. It's everything because fatigue makes cowards of all of us. And I'll just tell it to you straight. Gravity is going against you a little harder at 350, 340. And when you're in those 320s and you're in the 315s, you're explosive. And believe it or not, you're actually stronger. So Jordan Davis in this unit are going to be even stronger. It's a great pick by Mike. Again, go figure.
And I'll add this, Jalen Carter, usually defensive tackle, like it's kind of a slow progression to year 3, 4 is when you really start to come to your peak. But also this is kind of a contract year for him. You can officially start to sign your extensions after year 3. So even though they won the Super Bowl, even though he's already talked about as this guy, you think he might have a little bit more riding on this year, given that it could lead to $100 million payday at the end of it if all goes well for him.
Love to see these guys in contract years. George Pickens contract year again.
Yeah.
All these dudes you got to keep an eye on this year. All right, my pick again. I'm starting to figure out how this snake draft thing works. We've got the offensive line, we've got the receivers, we've got our tight ends, we've got our quarterback. You know what time it is. It's time to get those ball carriers involved. And there's nobody that I love doing it more than those gentlemen in Motor City. Okay, Sonic and Knuckles. David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs. You need guys who can do both. Jahmyr Gibbs can run by anybody. In baseball, when we had a pitcher who could throw really hard and the guys couldn't hit it, we'd say that's Louisiana style. By you, son. Okay, that's Jahmyr Gibbs. And then you give the ball to David Montgomery, down in, down out. You know exactly what you're going to get. You're going to get that Mike Tyson little short uppercut right into the throat or the face of a defensive player, whether it's a D tackle or a linebacker. You know what you're going to get with David Montgomery. We're an attitude football team. We're going to get further into that as this draft goes. But I love this group right here, man. 4th down, 3rd and short, doesn't matter. You say jump, I say jump, they say how high, which direction. Okay, first down, my football team. I don't even know our team name. First down.
Yeah, the Lions running back. This is you can draft. I drafted obviously like a one-man wrecking crew. Saquon. You could do that with probably Baltimore. I think qualifies as that with Derrick Henry. But this is like the 1-2 punch. You just don't get a better 1-2 punch in the NFL right now than what the Lions are bringing to the table. All right. 1 unit left for both of us. To recap here, I got Broncos DBs, Bengals wideouts, Raiders tight ends, Eagles linebackers, Eagles D-line, Bills O-line, Bills quarterback, You have Ravens quarterback, Eagles O-line, Giants D-line, Bucks receivers, Texans DBs, Lions running backs, Bears tight ends, 49ers linebackers, and we're getting to special teams and a full recap with maybe picking some OCs, DCs for these units coming up right after this. Hi, Kyle. Only special teams to go here in our draft, drafting the best units at every positional group in the NFL. So what are you going to do? Where are you going for special teams here?
You know what? I want to make some waves here. Okay. And you know what? When I think about special teams, I always think first, who is the special teams coach? And legendary Chicago Bears special teams coach Dave Toub has been in Kansas City. Obviously, he's had some fantastic guys who are able to take it to the house on kickoff returns, punt returns, but a lot of that is built in through your scheme and how you coach. So I think Dave Toub is going to be my pick for the special teams unit, which also, I get to inherit Harrison Butker. And, safe to say, I'm not going to let him give any pregame speeches. And Matt Araiza is also a guy with a big leg. Punt God is what they used to call him. I'm sure that's also a sensitive topic in the special teams room as well, but look, we've got two guys with big legs, Harrison Butker, one of the most accurate guys in the history of the National Football League, one of the most playoff and Super Bowl tenured guys in recent memory. Look, I feel like this is a no-brainer. I feel like you're going to outsmart me somehow, but come on, the Chiefs.
I'm going, no, it's hard to go against that unit. I mean, Butker's track record of big kicks is hard to debate. And then Matt Araiza has obviously, I mean, if you watched him punt in college, the guy has one of the strongest legs I've ever seen. But you know who else has one of the strongest legs I've ever seen and just kicked the longest field goal on an NFL football field ever? That would be one Cam Little, kicker for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He only missed 2 field goals as a rookie. No field goals missed from within 40 last year. And you have Logan Cook, who was the second highest graded punter by PFF last year, second best net punt average in the NFL last year. So that's the dynamic duo. It's probably the best you can do. Kicker, punter. I wasn't factoring in special teams coach. We could do that, though. Let's go through these units, and then let's pick what we want. OC, DC, head coach. You could throw in special teams coach for these units, but let's go through what we got here head to head. So you got Ravens quarterbacks, Eagles O-line, Giants D-line, Bucks receivers, Texans DBs, Lions running backs, Bears tight ends, 49ers linebackers, and then the Chiefs special teams. I have the Broncos DBs, Bengals receivers, Raiders tight ends, Eagles running backs, linebackers, defensive line, Bills quarterbacks and O-line, and then I have the Jaguars special teams. So for your units, for your offense here, Lions running backs, Bucks receivers, Lamar Jackson at quarterback, and then the Eagles offensive line. What are you thinking? I'll throw in the Bears tight ends as well. What are you thinking for offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator for your unit, and head coach?
Okay. Offensive coordinator. I hate to demote this guy because we just inherited him as a head coach in Chicago, but it's got to be Ben Johnson, right? This is the cutting edge of offense. This is somebody who's going to put all your players in the best position. I'm going to demote Ben Johnson from head coach to offensive coordinator.
Okay. We'll do. What about DC? We'll allow that.
Well, for DC, so this is where things get interesting. I'm going to go with Robert Saleh as the DC. And for head coach, I'm going to go with D'Amico Ryans. And here's why. Okay. D'Amico Ryans can handle the back end of the defense. Robert Saleh has obviously familiarity from their history together in the Bay Area. Look, this is just the reinvented San Francisco 49ers. Okay. That's what we're looking at here. When I came in the league, that defensive front was amazing. It got better and better. And then obviously there's been an exodus. So with the Giants defensive front, Fred Warner in the middle, able to do anything regardless of coach or scheme. And the Texans back end, I feel like with Saleh and with Ryans as those coaches, Ben Johnson being the brilliant mind he is, the offense will be taken care of. Obviously, things will be siloed in the building. I don't even want to see the defense. You know what I'm saying?
So Ben Johnson is an interesting choice.
Hey, the odd man out on the familiarity thing that I'm going with here is the Giants defensive front. But as you and I know, the D linemen, they're not even really with it all the way. They're not even really with it.
They're mercenaries.
We used to say during our online meetings when we'd be in there, solving all the world's problems, we wonder what the defensive line is doing, and our coach would say they're in there making birdhouses. They're just idiots. Okay, so put them with anybody and tell them to go get the quarterback, and they're going to be all right. It's the second and third levels you got to coach up.
The D line, I mean, it's just like, hey, here's a gap. you know, get in it like that. That's
Go get it.
it tends to be a fairly simplistic. That's why you can trade for Von Miller midseason. And he comes in and he's the same guy he was before. It's
It's
probably
like
the
the
easiest
cop
position to plug
from
and play.
remember Replacements? They had a cop who he kept hitting Keanu Reeves because he was wearing red.
Yes.
Red means stop. Okay, that's what you have to tell these cavemen that are on the line of scrimmage.
Oh, incredible. All right. For my OC, an interesting OC choice in Ben Johnson. Not surprised you went that way, given where he coaches now. But he's never had that running quarterback. He's never had Lamar Jackson. He's never schemed up an option running game. So I'm interested to see what he does this year with Caleb doing it. My picks, OC, Josh Allen, give me Kyle Shanahan. Yeah, it's a demotion for Kyle Shanahan, but we're building a super team. He'd be happy as hell to be able to coach what he's got here in obviously the Bills offensive line, Josh Allen, Saquon Barkley, along with the receiving corps of the Bengals and the tight end group of the Raiders. Defensively, Brian Flores. Brian Flores with the Broncos secondary is just electric. I was debating Vic Fangio because obviously the front seven all knows Vic Fangio. But Brian Flores, what he does blitzing those linebackers, tell me Zach Brown, Jahan Campbell aren't two guys you want blitzing a lot. They're versatile. They can do that. And then as a head coach, we're pulling Bill Belichick back out of the college ranks. He comes in, he's your head coach. He's pulling the strings. He's coming up back from North Carolina, the GOAT. We're giving him back a head coaching job that he deserves in the NFL. That's our coaching staff for this unit.
Okay, I'm bringing George Halas back to life, and we are going to just beat the brakes off you. You know what? I'm also going to make him the owner. I'm going to make him the GM. I'm going to make him the head coach, and he's going to be the captain. He's going to play on our team as well. We win. Trump card. Bang.
All right, we'll end with this. What's the one unit that around the NFL you look and you felt bad leaving off this list that we didn't draft? Is there a unit that you're like, they're very good, but we didn't get to them?
Okay, we didn't discuss the Broncos offensive line, which I have a passionate love for. I love their style of play. I feel like I'm glad that you said the Ravens secondary was that third tertiary option. And, they may have been two, there's a lot of these units around the NFL, but a guy like Baker Mayfield, any team would be happy to have a Baker Mayfield, even though some would say he's not a top four quarterback in the NFL. There's certain qualities that are priceless. He has them. There's certain qualities in these units around the league. They've just got it. They may not be the most talented, but they've got it. And you see a lot of that in like Detroit. Okay. So my team, we want to get as much of that as we can.
There were a couple units that I debated very heavily at certain positions. One was the Chiefs linebackers. I love the Chiefs linebackers and how they're put together because Nick Bolton's like a pure leader, pure Mike linebacker, gets everyone in order. Like he is that field general. You have Drew Tranquil, who's like your cover guy. Then you have Leo Chanel, who's like your guy who can line up on the line of scrimmage and blitz if you want to. One of the best run defenders at the linebacker position in the NFL. It's just a really well-built linebacking core. And then also the Pittsburgh Steelers defensive line. TJ Watt, Cam Hayward. They've added even more to it. Derek Harmon, your first round pick. Nick Herbig, Alex Highsmith. It just goes on and on. I felt a little bad leaving that Pittsburgh Steelers defensive line out of it. There you have it, though.
It happens.
Our best units draft. Let us know on X who you think won. And check us out Monday, Wednesday, Thursday on YouTube. Pushing the Pile. Check it out. Until next time, keep pushing.